Yesterday. We're talking about yesterday, Rob, not today. We'll talk about today, tomorrow morning. Alright, so yesterday, yeah, woke up in an air. It was just me, and it was just brilliant. I had such a great sleep. It was such a good sleep. And got on the road, and I was going to a place called Vimy, which is like the Canadian memorial. But on the way, I saw this British cemetery called Cabaret Rouge, and I went in there, and it was absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful. Had these incredible views. You could see necropolis of Notre Dame, the French cemetery that I'd seen the evening before, and yeah, it was just so gorgeous. I loved it. And yeah, it was so beautiful, sun, blue sky, everything was perfect. It was so good. So it was a really good way to start the day. And then I went up to Vimy, and oh my days, that place is just beautiful, absolutely beautiful. I parked up, and I didn't realise, but I could have parked a bit closer, so I had to walk, but I'm glad I did in the end, because as you walk through the trees, you see just crater holes and shell holes and everything. That whole area has just been peppered with stuff, and there's signs saying not to go in because there's still unexploded ordnance there, and yet there's sheep walking around, which is quite strange. But yeah, I took a walk, and then when you get to the monument, it's just these two monolithic towers that are just so stunning. I think it's probably one of the most beautiful man-made structures I've seen, and I've seen some incredible things, you know. I've seen the cathedral in Barcelona, I've seen some of the amazing monuments that are in London and Paris and you name it. And even looking at modern stuff, you know, stuff like the Burj Khalifa in Dubai and the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur, and they're all incredible to see. But this thing was just so simple and yet so beautiful. I loved it. I think it was something to do with the fact that it was these hard columns of structures that went up, but they were softened by the characters that were built into it, that just gave it this beautiful quality. You ever get a chance and you're in that part of France, go to Vimy. It's so worth it. Just along from there, just opposite where the Canadian and the French flag is and everything, there was a small Moroccan memorial as well, which I got a bit of footage of. But yeah, what a morning. Oh my god, what a morning. It was brilliant. Once I'd done that, I then drove on to Arras, and in Arras I went to the Citadel, and behind the Citadel was a place where it's quite sad in a way. It's basically a place where they executed people, and I'm not quite sure why they were executed, whether they were traitors or what have not, I don't know. And also I can't remember whether it's from the First World War or whether it's Second World War or what. I really don't know. Maybe I'll find out. But yeah, it was just these walls and these plaques of over 200 people that had been executed, and it was quite a sombering sight, but really beautiful. You could hear all the bird song, you could hear woodpeckers in the distance, and you're right in the middle of a city. You know, it was incredible. And a short walk from there was there was a cemetery as well, which was really beautiful, all walled in, really, really nice. Excuse me. So that was Arras. And then after that, I went to one of my highlights so far of this trip. I mean, Vimy really was special, but I heard about this place and I wanted to go there. It was the CWGC, which basically stands for the Commonwealth War Graves Commission, and it's free to go in. And you go in and they give you like a machine, and you push numbers according to the numbers in the courtyard that you're in, and you walk around and you see everything. You see where they get the stones from to make the graves, the quarry stone, where they cut the slabs, where they do the engraving of the slabs. You then got a carpentry workshop next door to that, where they do all the gates and doors for all of the fittings in these cemeteries. And then from there you go to the I think it was like the lawnmower workshop, where they service all the lawnmowers and all of the gardening tools and all of the bits and pieces that they have. And it was just brilliant in this courtyard. And then you went into this other place where they which is where the mortuary was attached, and it showed you what they did in terms of, you know, a farmer digs up some bones in his field, and how they go about recovering those remains and identifying those remains, etc., and finding out what that person died from, etc., etc., and then looking at and gathering whatever belongings there were, and then trying to put an identity to it, and then going through the whole burial process and how that was all done properly and with respect. And it was so moving, just being in that particular thing and just witnessing it on the video that they had was just like, wow. And then you come out of there and then you go into the place where they make all the signs, the road signs and stuff like that, that you see. And then there was a bit about the architecture of the gardens and the gardening of all of these sites, because the gardening is just stunning. And I mean, the cemeteries are just beautifully laid out. And then there's the metal workshop where they do all the gates and any metal ornaments and etc. And you know, like when you go into the cemeteries, there's like a metal box with a door where there's a register that you can then look up the names of people that you're trying to find, etc. And yeah, and then you finish the tour, and I spoke to a lady afterwards and was just, just saying how thankful I was to them for doing such a good job. I think there's something like, is there 3,000 employees or have not? But they have all these facts and figures up and everything like that. And yeah, I think there's over 3,000 sites. I don't know whether that's just France or whether that's worldwide, but there's a lot of cemeteries, like a lot of them. And yeah, it was just brilliant to see that you've got a commission that is dedicated to showing respect to the must be thousands of bodies out there still that have never been found or identified or anything, and each time one's found, I think they said something like they find something like 50 bodies a year. But yeah, it was a really, really good thing. So if you are ever doing this route or are interested in those cemeteries, that place is most definitely worth looking at. It's just south of Arras. I've forgotten the name of the village. No, escapes me. But it's just south of, it's like a couple of K south of Arras. So that was brilliant. Then after there I went to this little necropolis in Cornels-le-Comte, I think, I don't know. Very small French monument, very, very pretty, right on the edge of a little village. It's really nice. And then I went on to a British cemetery, the railway cutting cemetery, which was just brilliant. You know, you park up the van, cross over the railway crossing, and then you walk along this embankment, and then you get to this strip where all the stones are laid, and it's right alongside the railway line. And yeah, it was really, really lovely, really lovely. Yeah, the settings for these cemeteries are spectacular. Yeah, some are a little bit, but on the whole, some of them are just absolutely stunning. So beautiful. I then went to this little place called Ashley-le-Petit, and saw another German cemetery. And yeah, there's something about the German cemeteries. They are very, very different to the Commonwealth ones and the necropolises of the French. They're very played down quite a lot. Very, very simple, very sparse. But there's something about them that are just incredible. I do like them. They really are quite special. And just along from it, there was another Commonwealth one, but it was a 1940s one. It was for 7 crew members of a Lancaster bomber that had crashed near that little village. So there were these 7 headstones and a memorial plaque and everything. And I just really enjoyed going to these cemeteries. I mean, you know, I don't know what it is about cemeteries. I've always liked cemeteries, but these ones in particular are just so peaceful. They've just been so, and for the most part, I've been the only person at these cemeteries, the only one there, which has just been amazing. And then I did this little village called Miramont, and going through all these villages, there's always little stones or, you know, commemorative plinths or what have not, and a lot of them are all quite important. You know, they're all places that had particular battles, etc., etc. I don't know the history of all of these places, but because I've been reading and gone to various museums over the last couple of days or so, you see these things and you go, oh, I recognise that name, etc., etc. So I've been passing through a lot of these places. Then I ended up at this other monument called Tipfo, and Tipfo is just insane. Oh my god. I mean, Vimy is a lot, well, in my opinion, is more beautiful. Tipfo is very, just almost like Lego construction of just bricks and concrete, and it's just these arches. But what's lovely about it is a combination of a French and British memorial, and you've then got the graves behind it as well. But it is huge, and you can see it for miles around. You can see it for miles. It's just been, yeah. I managed to get the drone up there. It was very windy, mind, but it was worth doing. It looked really nice. And then, but that monument was inundated with school children. I think it's just pure bad luck in that I hit it, and as I went into the car park there were 3-4 buses, and they're all English as well. I got talking with these 3 lads, and they said, yeah, they're all on a school trip from Aylesbury. I was like, my granddad used to live in Aylesbury, and they were asking me what I was doing, etc, etc. They were nice lads actually, taking photos, but that was them finishing at the end of their tour. But yeah, everywhere I've been up to that point, there's been I've either been the only one there, or there's been very few people there, but this was just full of school kids. But it was alright, it was good, and fair play to their teachers doing a trip like that. I think all of us need to do a trip to the Somme or to Flanders or wherever. I think it's important to remember. Just round the corner from there was a Tour d'Ulster, or the Tower of Ulster rather, and it was a monument to a particular division from Ulster, and yeah, beautiful setting. You can see it for miles around as well. It's interesting design of this tower. I didn't go inside it or whatever. I presume you can go up and walk up to the top or what have not, but there are other churches that I've seen sort of around that were very similar to it, so I think they must have kind of copied the design of some of the architecture that was around that area. But it was really beautiful. I passed through a little place called Hamel. Stopped there for a bit, and then I went on to Albert, and Albert was the end. No, sorry. Thiepval was the end of leg 2, and Albert was the start of leg 3. Well, this is the end of leg 2. Thiepval, a huge monument, an amazing monument. Been an incredible day today. Woke up very cold. It was frost on the ground, but sunshine. It's been beautiful, clear blue sky all day, and yeah, just got some amazing places today. And oh, that Canadian monument was just, that Vimy was just insane, so beautiful. And then here, and I've just seen the Tower of Ulster. So we're about to go to Albert, which is the start of the 3rd leg, and then I kind of got to go and backtrack, and I'm not quite sure why I'm backtracking so much, because when I'm now looking at Google Maps, I can't see as many things as I thought there was, but there is obviously a reason. I think it's, and again, it's all down to the route that the Western Front had, and I think every now and then it does these little circuits, so I think that's why. So I'm going to go to Albert. There is a museum there. It might be open, might not be, but then go from there and kind of come back almost this way again to then take in the 2nd stage of the 3rd leg, if you know what I mean, and carry on, sort of thing. And again, I'll probably be hopefully about a quarter of a third way through the next leg, so I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, which is really cool. But what a day, incredible day today. Some really nice country farm scenery, and now we're in the Somme. Now we're in the territory, or the council of the Somme. So yeah, hopefully there'll be quite a lot to see around here. So check in with you later. So I went to the start, and they've got a museum, the Somme Museum, which is really cool. You kind of go underground. You kind of come in at the side of the main church in the main square, and then you just go down this ramp and you go down and down and down. I don't know how many meters you go below the ground, and it's just all these catacombs with displays and everything, and they've got so much stuff, all of the rifles, the pistols, the grenades, machine guns, all of the equipment from all of the forces, personal belongings, insignias, badges, everything. And then they have these sort of alcoves with reenactments of, you know, with the mannequins inside there, guys in a trench, or guys in a machine gun nest, or people in hospital, or whatever it was. All of these various scenes depicted as you walked along this tunnel. It was quite interesting, actually. And then you go towards the end, as you're coming out, you go through this tunnel which is set up with LED lights and rows of speakers, and it's just this cacophony of like machine gun fire and grenades going off and explosions and mortars and all of this banging away really loud, and these lights flashing and strobing and going mental. Yeah, it's quite an experience going through that tunnel, actually. And then you come out and into a gift shop. You know. Yeah. So anyway, I didn't get anything from the gift shop. And yeah, then you come out and you go, well, where the hell am I? Because it brings you out into another part of the town. You come out into a park, and you're like, I'm sure there was a church when I came in, and now I'm in the middle of a park. What the hell is going on here? But managed to find myself back to the church again. But that was good. I enjoyed that. And then I drove from there, and I ended up in a place called Comicourt Cemetery. I think this was a British cemetery. And then I went to another small cemetery in a little place called Elviers. Oh, that's right. The Comicourt one was brilliant. And I remember now why. It was because it was surrounded by wind turbines. There's a load of wind turbines. And yeah, it was amazing when you see all these crosses, or headstones rather, and then you've always got the cross. All the cemeteries have all got pretty much the same kind of furniture in. And yeah, it was amazing when you saw that cross, and you were thinking, well, I was thinking that you've got all of this stuff depicting over 100 years ago of and commemorating over 100 years ago of these poor souls that have lost their lives, and what it must have been like 100 years ago, technology wise and everything. And then you pan up with the camera from the gravestone to a cross, and then there's this enormous big windmill or wind turbine in the background, and it's just incredible to think of how much we've moved on since then. Yeah, it was yeah, just the moment, you know. I have moments. And then went to Elviers, which was beautiful, lovely little place, right on the edge of a village, but this beautiful little cemetery. I then ended up in a place called Bapaume, and didn't spend long there. But I think it had been a town that had just been obliterated, and that's another thing as well. You go through all these places, you see all these towns and villages and everything, and you look at them now and you're going, oh, that looks lovely and everything, but 100 years ago they were literally wiped off the face of the earth. They were obliterated, they were absolutely destroyed, and they've all been built back, and you know, churches and schools and municipal buildings, etc., etc. And yeah, these buildings, probably the churches and the bigger buildings, are probably now about 100 years old. But imagine how old they would have been if it weren't for the war. You know, yeah, it's weird. Bapaume was completely flattened, apparently. Then went from there to a place called Grevier's Cemetery, where there was British and New Zealanders that were buried in this cemetery. And then on to a place called Wallencourt Cemetery. And I'm not going to say that once you've seen one, you've seen them all, because it's not like that. Even though the furniture's the same, i.e. the headstones and the cross and the plinth, etc. But the way they're laid out, the planting, the walls, the situation, certain trees, the view around it, surrounding it, are so different. And yeah, they're all just incredible places. And then I was just pushing in loads. I was trying to get loads in here. I then obviously had to go and see the London Cemetery, and that was just so stunning in terms of its tranquility and where it was. There was a wood just across the road from it, and it was so peaceful. I do often think, as I'm parking up in airs as much as possible, or what have not, and then you think, well, you could park here, because there are places, some of the cemeteries, but I'm just a bit superstitious, me. I just sort of get the heebie-jeebies. So I don't, but they would be beautiful places to stay. They're very quiet. And then from there I went and saw this thing called the Footballers' Battalions, and actually just before that there was a monument to a Highlander, a Scottish Highlander. Sorry, God, I went right in there. Scottish Highlander. And then up from there, oh yeah, there was a monument in the square of the village, and then up from there was this Footballers' Battalion. So can only imagine that it might have been something to do with celebrating a footballer who was a soldier, I think. And then I went on and saw the South African monument. It was closed, unfortunately, but I had enough juice in the old drone battery, and I took the drone up and I managed. And actually, it's better to see it with a drone because of the shape and everything of the monument and everything. So it's probably better to see it from the air. So I managed to get an aerial shot of it. And then across the road from there is a place called the Derville Wood Cemetery, which is just gorgeous, really beautiful. And then from there I headed to the air in Bray-sur-Somme and stayed in this amazing air by the River Somme, which is where this was originally recorded. But I've had to now record this at the end of that day. So I'll see you in the next one. Cheers.